Hello, hello. It's Micaela. Welcome to the Children's Book Marketing Channel. I am delighted to bring to you today an interview with a fellow self published children's book author. Her name is Tiffany Teachey, and she is the author of STEM Careers from A to Z. What Can I Be? And it is a book for kids who are interested in science, technology, engineering, and math. And I asked her to be my interviewee today for a couple of different reasons. One of the reasons is because she's been on this journey since December of 2019 and she has experienced a lot ups, downs, learning experiences. And because she has a full time job, I really wanted her to shed some light on some of the things related to marketing that she's doing, and also some of the things that are related to marketing that she'd rather not do, but finds ways to do differently. I want to thank you for tuning in and ask if you haven't already to make sure you subscribe to the channel. That way, you get updates on when interviews like this go live. Now, over to the interview. So, a couple of things that I really want you to be able to share is why your area, STEM, is so close to your heart. And we all care about something. I mean, the way I care about marketing is the way that you care about STEM and engineering. So I'd really like to
Mhm.
know where this passion came from for you.
Right. So I have a passion for STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, because I am an engineer myself. I've been about 16 years in the industry itself with energy sector, as well as with engineering as well. And so because of that, I have a passion because there's a need out there, especially for girls and underrepresented minorities to be in these STEM fields. So that's why my passion is with STEM, because there's a need out there.
Yeah. So when you were a kid, were you interested in STEM like the entire time you were growing up?
Initially, growing up, I thought I could be a lawyer. I thought I could debate and do that whole thing. But I learned as far as what engineering is about is problem solving. So I had a educator mom and an entrepreneur dad, and they instilled in us, my brother and I, the power of education as well as hard work. And so we had to go to a Saturday Math and Science Saturday Academy,
Mm-hmm.
and from that we were able to learn about engineering and the importance of it. And actually, my dad was with his entrepreneurship had a customer who was a civil engineer. He's like, you should get your kids into engineering. It's great. And so by doing the math and science, knowing that it's problem solving, and being able to be told that's a great career to go into. My brother and I both went into engineering. I'm a mechanical engineer and he's a civil engineer.
Gotcha. So, would you say that there are some misperceptions about STEM careers, particularly for women,
Mhm.
when the option is presented to them? Are there some things that people immediately rush to that are just not the accurate way of depicting the career fields?
Right. So of course it's a male dominated field. And so a lot of times we as women and girls, let's start with the girls in class, the math classes can get intimidated because they feel they're not good enough. And so a lot of times imposter syndrome plays a role when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
specifically women in STEM. And
Mm-hmm.
so the thing is knowing that they're just as capable, they're just as smart. And so that's the biggest thing as far as with STEM and being in a male dominated field, that a lot of girls and women have to see themselves in it because we are just as smart. We have the problem solving skills. I've had to, show that I'm capable and competent with a lot of the different things as far as being an engineer in the different career as well as in school. And so being that I knew that I was going to a male dominated field, I knew that there was a need for representation and I was representing it. So definitely there is a misconception, but the thing is we've got to have representation. Girls got to see that there are women out here that are doing it. And I think that would help with the situation of encouraging them to see themselves in STEM.
Mm-hmm. Now, I think you mentioned to me before you wrote the book, you were already doing
Mhm.
some things to help bring attention to the
Mhm.
disparity that exists between
Yes.
girls and boys in STEM.
Mhm.
And I know that's part of the thing that was really what drove you to write the book. But can you talk a little bit about what some of those things
So
were?
as far as being in front of the right people, it allowed me where I went and talked to a lot of the kids and told them what they could be as far as an engineer. A lot of them never met an engineer. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I would go out to the schools, I do the presentations and then tell them, hey, have you met an engineer? And a lot of times they haven't, but by the end, they can say they've met an engineer. And so I said, okay, we've got to encourage more to see it. So why don't I put it in writing? And so that's what really pushed me to say, okay, I can write a book so I can encourage a lot of them to see themselves in it. And so that's what I did. That's what I
Okay,
did.
got it. So the first book,
Hmm.
IB, STEM Careers
From A to Z.
A to Z. You wrote that book at what point in your professional journey with STEM?
Hmm. So it's been about a year and a half. So in December 2019 is when I produced it, finally published it. I did self-publishing route. And so 2.5 months prior to that, that's when I decided it was time to be able to write a book. And so I was challenged on Facebook how you can write a book in 5 days of
Mhm.
learning it. So I learned the process. And from there, 2.5 months later, I was able to produce it in December. So I've been in the journey for about a year and a half of writing a book. So it's been an amazing experience.
Gotcha. Because you
Hmm.
are a professional, you have a full time job. In spite of the way the world is now with COVID, the pandemic, and all that, you do have something that takes up a majority of your time. So,
Hmm.
for somebody like you who is thinking about self publishing a book, what tips would you give them as they go through the self publishing process about things that they should do that you may have done or things that you might do differently?
I would say do your research, do your market research, know who your target audience is. I think that's the biggest thing. Identify keywords that are associated with it. Go to Amazon, go do the research and see what are people searching for. That's how you determine what there's a need and there's a need. Then go to those Facebook groups, start looking to see, okay, maybe go ask those type of questions so you can know what you're talking about. And just know that it's a business. And the thing is, marketing before, market during, and market after is important when you're talking about producing your book. And so realizing that it's a business is key, is what I've learned as well.
Mm-hmm. How do you get around the parts of marketing that you're not that crazy about? And I know you're not that crazy about all parts of it because most engineers are not that
Yes.
enthusiastic about
Yes.
anytime the marketing department calls up and says, "Hey, we need y'all to do
Right.
something."
Right. It's a journey to learn the marketing piece of it, and just knowing what where there's a need, and it's a test and trial sometimes. Now, I had to learn that marketing is key. I had to learn when I did my first book. I said, "Wow, here's my book," and they were like, "Oh, wow, where can we get it? Where can we get it?" So you have to have a plan. You have to have it where you're going to send people. You got to have a website. You got to have somewhere to promote. And so that's the biggest thing that I had to learn is how to promote it and how to get it out there. And
Mhm.
then learning to not be salesy has been one thing I had to learn too. And so my biggest thing of marketing is learning to allow the readers and people to get to know me. And so that has been one thing I've had to learn from it. Now, the pros of it, by me going out to do book fairs, doing all that and capturing pictures and moments like that when I'm with the kids doing the book readings, that type of marketing has been great because it's telling my story of my journey, showing them what they can be and everything too. So that's the pro of it as far as the marketing piece. But the ins and out of posting and doing all that, that's been my challenge. But I'm learning the process of what works and what doesn't when it comes to marketing itself. But the pros of it is the impact that I'm making with the book, the impact I'm making by telling my story, and the smiles and the reviews that comes from the work that I'm doing, and the marketing piece has been great to put it out there.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people consider that when they write the children's book, that's all there is to it. You write it, you put it out
Hmm.
there, and it's going to sell. And then the news flash hits that there's
Right.
other things involved that are marketing oriented. And even though you're not that enthusiastic about the content posting and creation stuff, you still generate a lot of good content from these
Oh
blogs
yeah. Hmm.
out there is a part of the content that you can share. And the
Hmm.
more you're out there, the more footage you get for video, the more
Yes.
testimonials you gather, the less you have
Yes.
to be preoccupied with what to post.
Hmm.
Right. All right, cool. Thanks for sharing that. And I think
Yes.
it's also important because you have a full-time job. What are some of the tips you might offer for managing it all in the
Right.
of you being able to commit 100% to book sales only?
Right. Just allotting my schedule, knowing my schedule, as far as knowing I'm working full time, what times can I allot to the business? And a lot of times when I do the book fairs, knowing what dates I can do those, scheduling it, knowing what weekends I can do, it's really been key to be able to know what I'm capable of. And then also using a lot of the tools, learning to automate and learning to being able to plan ahead of time of what I want to post out there has been key too. So I use a lot of tools and automations to help me in that process of being able to know what to market as well. So
Oh,
just knowing the schedule has been helpful.
those are key. What are some of your favorite automation tools, Tiffany?
I've tried different ones. I'm still filling them out, but definitely there's one that's called Tailwind. There's one that's called Plan That, and so I've been tweaking between the two of those as far as being able to plan where out what tools I want to put as far as posting content. Now, my go-to for posting is Canva. Canva is my go-to for anything I want to post as far as developing it. So Canva is my go-to for making sure I can generate what I want to post. And then posting up and planning schedules, that's the other tools that I just mentioned. So those have been some key ones as far as what I've used so far from
Cool.
learning the
Those are
marketing.
different from the ones that I normally use, but I'm going to put those in the links for the show notes. That way, anybody
Okay.
curious, they
Okay.
can go check them out and see if they're a good fit for them.
Okay.
I've been hooked on Canva, of course, almost
Yes.
10 years, I think, if
Oh,
I'm
wow.
content
Okay.
creation. Yeah, Canva and I kind of grew up together.
Okay.
And a lot of changes have been made, but
Hmm.
the most recent updates to Canva with the ability to be able to schedule content is
Hmm.
something that I think is helpful to a lot of people. I use Planoly on a daily basis, and
Yes.
Planoly for me,
Some.
a lot of people are not that enthusiastic about it because there are certain automated post releases that just can't be done, but they can't be done on
Hmm.
the platform either. So
Hmm.
not really at a disadvantage. But
Right.
Planoly is the other one I use. And when it comes to tools, I always like to share the ones that I find. So I'm going to share the ones that you shared as well.
Okay.
Cool.
Sounds good. Sounds
Uh,
good. Yeah, I'm
so
constantly learning. Constantly learning.
I love it, love it, love it. All right, so let's talk a little bit about something else because I'm really curious to know how you decided to go from creating the book and putting
Hmm.
it there, marketing the book. You went
Hmm.
from creating the book and marketing the book to developing the book in other translations.
Right. Right.
Now, for somebody who is brand new to children's
Hmm.
self publishing, what's the significance of choosing alternate translations for your book?
It's all about having options. And so when I thought about it, I said, okay, why just have it in English? Why not give opportunities for others to be able to learn what I'm talking about?
Mhm.
I'm trying to promote STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, whatever topic you're trying to get. Why not get a opportunity for others to be able to learn it? And so I also have a little bit of English in it. So I have it in 3 translations so far. Besides English, I have it translated in Spanish, French, and Swahili. And so from there, I have it also showing the alphabet for English as well as the English version of the title of the career itself, STEM career itself. So I wanted them to still be able to learn the translation of it, but also learn a little bit of English at the same. So it's a little bit of bilingual in it as well. So I wanted to make sure there was a combination. So I mean, the biggest thing is once you got your book, you've got the words already there. So the thing is, I took the words that were there and said, let me get somebody who can translate these. And then I went through the whole process of taking the translated one and replacing it with those new translated words. And voila, I've got my different translated books. And so it's just been a good experience to have options. And that's what I did.
What did
Hmm.
you have to first do? Walk me
Hmm.
through the
Okay.
sequence of events that got you in
Okay.
front of the right people to
Right.
ultimately making sure that the translations that you wanted were in place.
Right.
I want to know about how the sales and distribution may be different
Hmm.
than what you experience with the book being
Hmm.
sold in its initial English version.
Right. Okay, so let's start with the process. So initially, someone reached out to me who's a translator. So that's what happened with me through Instagram. And so I said, "Well, are you with Fiverr? Because that's really who I get a lot of." And she said she was with Fiverr at one point. Of course, you got Fiverr, freelancing, Upworks.com. Those are freelancing companies you can definitely work with as far as building a book. But I worked with a translator, and I said, how much would it cost to get it translated? And so I didn't know which one I was going to use, Spanish, French, what other ones. But first I had to see which ones was she good at, which one was she fluent to be able to do it. And so she had other languages as well that she was capable of. But I said, let me start with Spanish because, of course, Black and Brown, that's key definitely in a lot of these underrepresented communities, especially in a lot of these Title I schools and stuff too. So I definitely wanted a Spanish version in it. And so I asked her, well, what if I get two of them? And so I sort of went through negotiation period and said, okay, what if I get two? So from there, I was able to get a deal to get two languages at the same time by the same translator. And so I got the Spanish and French. And so all she needed to know how many word counts it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
The word count was needed. From that is how she based off of how much the price would be for per word count. And so from there, once it was translated, once I got the pricing, got all that done, she gave it back. And then all I did was go back to my book formatter. So I go to a book team. I have a book team. Mine is with Fiverr.com. I have my key ones that created the book. They're my go-to. And so I have a book formatter. I have an editor. First off, let me forget. I made sure it's different too. I'm used to going to an editor as well. So editor is also a part of your book team as well. But being that it's translation, I'm hoping at that point it is the right translation, but you do take a risk. It is probably good to get an editor that can translate and understand if that's the right way too,
Yeah.
as well. So that process should be a part of it too.
Mm-hmm.
But editor, book formatter, and a book cover designer, because of course you got to change the front of your book as well and the back of your book. So those were the key people I went to after I got it translated, and all they did was replace it with the different ones, and from there I had to end up going through the process of creating a ebook, a Kindle one, and then a paperback as well as a hardback. And I had the same way for each of them, like I did with the English one. And so I have all three types of formats for the English and the Spanish and French. Now for the Swahili one, translation, actually, it was a STEM group here and located. And it's important because they said they do STEM out in Kenya. And they was like, we have a mentoring group that we would love for the girls and everyone to be able to tie in with. So I partnered with them, and they had a translator that was out there in Kenya. And so did the same method, said, here's my manuscript. How much would it cost? They did it per cent, how much it would cost for the manuscript words. And so from there, went through the same process. And once I got the translated words, went back to my book team, said, let's switch it and do that. So I had two different types of translators, but for the basis of what it was for, and who knew how to translate what, that's how I ended up doing those. And so that's why I went that route, because I definitely want to get out in Africa. That is my goal. That's on my bucket list anyway. So to get that translated in Swahili, it's something different. I don't think a lot of people get to see that, but I think it's a great opportunity to present itself.
Yeah. What was your connection to the person who was in Africa?
So she has a STEM program here in Columbia, South Carolina. I Dreams. It's STEM. It's a STEM. It's a girls STEM group that she mentors for the girls, and she has a whole group of school out there in Kenya. And she's like, they do a lot of festivals. They do a lot of things, and so also there's international festivals that's here in the country. So she's like, this will be a great opportunity. You can also market it there. I've got all those translated ones. So when you're thinking about all the different translations, is there international festivals? That's the prime time to sell these books as well. So that's been one of the biggest things. But yeah, that was my connection. She has a STEM girls hands-on mentoring program, and so from there, I was able to get with their translator, their person out there, and go from there to be able to translate it. So that was my connection.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now that makes a lot of sense, and it's not every day that you encounter somebody who has an entire group that they're impacting on the
Right.
the world. It's funny. The other day I was talking to my graphic designer, and we've been working together now for almost 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, she's been in the same place for the entire 4 years that we've been working together, and I have been too. And it turns out when I decided I wanted to get the book translated, it didn't even occur to me to go to any place else to get it translated.
Mm-hmm.
She's the native
Mm-hmm.
speaker, and she lives in South America. So
Wow.
it was like a no-brainer. I don't actually
Right.
go out and find somebody to translate the book in Spanish. But I haven't yet decided if I want to get little Mr. Fix-It Assist with the to-do list translated into any other languages as
Right.
well. Because the community where I live is so heavy in the Spanish speaking population
Right.
that I know a lot of people who have businesses in this area. And since I'm in one of the most diverse counties in the state of Georgia, there are businesses that have the sign out front and all of the verbiage in Spanish.
Right. Right.
They don't translate them. And that's okay here because people acknowledge their heritage. I think
Mm-hmm.
too many people who overlook the fact that there are some people here who don't speak English at all.
Right.
English, French, Swahili, Spanish. You've got these
Yes.
multiple translations. Do you track the sales differently? Do they all sell in the same place?
It's been a journey. Like you said, from the marketing piece, it's all about how I market it. And so it's been a journey with the marketing because I feel like I aim towards my English one, but it's been helpful when people who do get a hold of it and can market it to their people. And so I've been able to get it where people who've gotten it can now get bulk size of it. I've had it where schools have wanted to get bulk size of it. And so it's just making sure that I'm marketing it
Mm-hmm.
to be able to once the word is out there that it's out there as an option. It a lot of times they want to have English and Spanish for the kids to be able to have options. So it's just the marketing piece that plays a role with it. And so the sales have been interesting, but that's because I might not market it as much as I should. Put it like that. I sort of put it out there, but I've got to put more into it if I really want to sell it. So yeah, it's been a journey, but I mean, I've had some sales with it. It's been helpful with those that at least can get it in bulk size. I think that's been helpful too. And so I've seen a lot of that happen too. So that's been good.
Where have
Yeah.
the majority of your bulk sales derived from?
Many of them from schools. Some schools have done it where they've got the English, but they want to make sure they have some Spanish ones. So once I've done book readings, a lot of them say, "Okay, can we get both of them?" And so that's been one of my biggest things that's helpful from that end.
Mm-hmm.
And so from schools, from maybe organizations that maybe want to like this dealing with kids and want to make sure that they get exposed to both of them. So it just varies as I continue to market. That's the biggest thing. So mostly of them are been bulk sales from just one schools that once they've got a hold of the English, they definitely want to try to get the Spanish. So
Right. So Tiffany, you mentioned bulk sales. And
yes.
because my entire book strategy is built around bulk sales, I'm gonna
Mhm.
let you in on a little something. I don't have any desire to put my book on Amazon.
Okay.
A mama likes to make money.
Yes.
And I understand that the way to generate a significant enough amount from Amazon is in high volume. So, as
Yeah.
opposed to going the route of putting my book on Amazon for the volume I'm looking for is through bulk sales. And there happens to be some corporations and some institutions, like libraries and academic as well,
Mhm.
that immediately caught my attention when I started this book journey. So I'm like, okay, it's a no brainer for me. But if somebody has thought about bulk sales, because you've
Yeah.
done it, talk a little bit about whether you price the books the
Mhm.
same way for your
Mhm.
bulk sales and why you may choose to price them differently.
Right. I've learned that bulk sales are the way to go because you make more money anyway
Mm-hmm.
by using your author copy. When you sell on hand,
Mm-hmm.
it's a whole different thing than giving your money to Amazon and all that. Now, I do put mine on Amazon as an option, but I once I get my on hand ones.
Hmm.
And if I can, I do them in bulk. I do 40%. I do 40%. In bookstores, they always want some bulk sales. They want some there. So like the Barnes and Nobles and all that too. But for schools, for different organizations, I actually got hit up just recently, a day ago, for 300 books. And so one of the organizations said, yeah, they have a grant. And they're like, we want to go on Amazon and get it, but can you help us get it differently? I was like, oh, we can make this happen.
Yeah.
300 books, yes, we can make it happen. I was like, we can do it a wholesale bulk. And I don't mind doing that because at the end of the day, I'm still going to make more money out of doing that than Amazon taking the money from me. So it's better for me to make the full amount and make profit from it. And so that's how I've been doing bulk sales. A lot of times I was doing lower amounts, depending on the organization stuff, on if it's 10 or things, but I've moved to 25 or more, definitely for bulks if I could. So that's how I've priced it for 40%. That's the ideal. Some bookstores might want 55%, but I'm like, nah, I'm not. I'm gonna do 40. So even that I do with schools, I do the 40. I mean, I'm open to negotiate if it's worth it. But when I got told 300 books, I was like, yes. And I'm
Yeah.
making more money from that. So
Yeah.
that's what I've learned for me when it comes to bulk, because you do make more money, you make more profit. Because the cost of printing, you certain amount, but on top of that, you make more of the money doing bulks because you're going to make more of the profit from it. So
Yep.
that is how I've learned where you want to make the money from that end.
Absolutely. You know,
Mhm.
Tiffany, I think too, we gotta stick here for a minute because this is something.
Okay.
And I wanna say that the strategy was in place before I did my Kickstarter to
Hmm.
do bulk sales primarily. But then there are lots of different reasons why it really encouraged me and it energized the campaign. Part of the reason was because when I did the campaign, I asked people for support in a variety of ways. I didn't only ask
Hmm.
them to back the campaign, I also asked if they knew people who may be interested in purchasing the book. And it turned
Right.
that I have a friend who I've been friends with since middle school who works for the county library
Oh wow.
in the state where we're from. And when she put it out there, I was like, it's happening. Oh my goodness. But then
Hmm.
another person who is in education said
Hmm.
something that was altogether I didn't anticipate. She said, your book would be great for the special needs kids that we have because they have a shortage of books where family dynamics are represented.
Hmm.
So that made me think of other places where family
Hmm.
dynamics should be more prominently discussed. I'm, the one thing that I'm going to throw out, and I'm going to ask you to throw out some that you have found as well, but your shipping costs. You get flat ship. So the supply chain brain that's up here too, right, along with the product brain, is going to say if you can ship, in your case, 300 books to one location,
One location.
you can give them free shipping if they
Hmm.
are so inclined to accept it. Because at the end of
Right.
the day, whatever you just saved in having to sell 300 books at a much deeper discount on a
Right.
distribution channel, that in and of
Mm.
itself takes profit out of your pocket.
Oh yeah.
You don't have to wait.
It's something else with the shipping itself. So that's a whole nother, that's another whole. So if you can have it in one state location, that's key. And that I agree on that. I agree
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah.
And
So
I mean, I've been doing that. Like for the Girl Scouts, that's another one. Like I kept mentioning, um, when you're talking about my Girl Scouts at where I work, as far as one of the organizations, they bought 30 books. And like I said, I didn't mind doing the wholesale for that. I still made a profit from that. And then she bought 30 more books for a whole nother group of Girl Scouts. So I mean, the sky's the limit. I'm just like, bulk is where, yes, I will not complain about bulks. It was through Instagram. They saw me. Yes, people are watching. So you just be, this marketing is something else, but you'd be surprised who's watching. And it's been amazing.
And you
So,
know, the piece about it having come from somebody who saw you on Instagram, they didn't see that in an ad that you ran. They saw
right.
a post you created. And I think it's relevant to point that out because the consistency that we post with doesn't always seem like something we want to do. And by
Right.
I say we, I don't mean me because I'm a content creator, so I have no
Yeah,
choice.
you're that's what you do.
That's what I do.
That is your expertise.
But when we think about, I don't know if I'm going to post today. I don't know if I want to share that. Just do it. Just share it.
Yes,
The right person is likely to see it. And that opportunity that gets created as a result is one that you'll thank yourself for later.
right. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Did that push you to create more?
Yes, it did. Because as I talk about it, I'm like, it works.
Hey, well, just call me girl if you don't want to create it. I got you.
Understood. Yep.
It warrants some discussion to talk a little bit about how you became acquainted with some of these schools. And I say that because your book is directly related to curriculum
Oh
that
yeah.
students will be introduced to. So it's a seamless alignment between you going
Hmm.
and if somebody who's an author wanted to get into schools without maybe that direct linkage, what would
Hmm.
they do to go about getting those experiences, whether virtual or in person?
If you can get to the school districts, that's really been helpful. Ironically, yesterday when I posted about the teachers edition that I just came out with, someone said they just introduced it to their principal and to the school district, and they want to make sure that they get it into the school system. So it's just, and that was on LinkedIn, which I was like, wow. So you just don't know where the marketing part might be, but LinkedIn, when I posted it on there, it's been, the sky's the limit from that as well. So don't sleep on other type of social media because there are opportunities. So that was one that stood out where, okay, one of them said we've already introduced it. We're going to show it that way. But as far as I think, if you can get into school districts, principals, and marketing that way, starting from that end and working its way down, and then getting reviews from teachers and whatnot from that word of mouth to get it to other schools and build. I think that's really what's been helpful. So testimonials help from other schools, and then once they see that, then they know that that's a great book to be able to take part in. So those have been my methods of trying to get in to the schools and doing book readings. And then I've also done where I've partnered with Girl Scouts. I mean, even Girl Scouts. I've gotten, so not even just schools, but just Girl Scouts has been it's been popular for me. So definitely just getting the word out there, getting the marketing out there. Schools, you can get into the schools and libraries. Don't sleep on libraries too.
Mhm.
I've been able to get my books into libraries as well. So not just schools, but also the libraries. And it's all about getting it out there, getting it to the libraries, and just Library of Congress. Once you get that number on there, um, that library can find you from that end. So that's another way I've also been able to market as well, alongside with the schools.
Yeah, so you like just uncovered a series of things that we have to talk. So the first thing we got to revisit is what the administrative side of this looks like when you introduce multiple versions, because you've mentioned the Library of Congress, you've got various copyrights that have to be issued
Mhm.
books. You also have you also have, when you think about creating multiple versions, multiple ISBN numbers. When
Yes,
you think about translating their books, they think, okay, let's just create something and put it out there. But the reality is there's a process involved with that as well.
yes,
When you think about how it all came together, timing, would you say it took a long time to get all of the approvals for copyrights for each version, for the issuance of the Library of Congress seal of
right.
approval? What kind of time frame are you looking like with that?
I mean, it was a time frame, but I had to learn. I mean, you learn from your first book. I had to learn the process a little bit. I mean, the whole ISB, I learned because when you get your ISBN, oh, I was like, oh, I'm gonna just get one. That's it. I didn't know you could get a whole book. I saw the 10. You get 10 ISBNs. Like this is, it's been a learning process. I should have bought the 10, not knowing that I'm gonna create some more books after the one. But I bought the one. So yes, it was a learning process. I will say now I know more than ever, but I was that one like, oh, I'm gonna buy one ISBN number, not knowing I'm gonna get some more. So it's a lot of learning from it, but if people don't have to make the mistake the first time, that's good. But so, and then from that, because I had to go to a formatter, and I was like, oh, I want it on an ebook. I want it on a paperback. I want it on hardback. He's like, okay, well, you're gonna have to. It's different charges for each of that to get it translated. I was like, oh wow, I didn't know. I was like, oh, I thought you could just get this PDF and you could just it'd be just like no. And then as far as the cover, the hardcover, the formatting for that is different for a hardcover versus a paperback. And so it was just a journey of learning it. After I got my first one, I learned. So I learned the do's and don'ts of through that process. But it was a process. I mean, like I said, it's 2.5 months for me. But I learned from my first book. So then I was able to, once I've learned, you learn from your, mistakes and stuff too. So from that, I knew what I needed to have as far as going to get the line, the Congress, the Library of Congress, the copyright, like getting all of that is a key, and making sure you put that in your copyright page, because that's what's going to go and tag along with it. So it was a learning process. And so about 2.5 months for me for the first book, but then I've learned what it takes. So that next go round, I said, oh, okay, let me make sure I got enough ISBNs. I'm definitely gonna make. So it was a journey, but it was worth it because now I know what to do. You see, I've got 5, 6, 7 books, 8 books now. So from that, I've tackled, and I learned to stay in my lane. I tell people that too. I'm an engineer, and I'm like, I don't know how to do all this. You build your book team. You build your book team. And that's what I learned also in the process itself. So book team, from the editor to the illustrator, working with the illustrator, working with the book designer, cover designer, and formatter. So I learned the process. It took me 2.5 months, but I was able to tackle the book. And so from now I know what it takes, the time frame to get it done. So
Sweet.
yeah.
That's something I always share with the people who I work with who are children's book authors when they ask, do I need to get the 10 ISBN numbers? And the way I frame it, it, I think stands out in a way that makes them know that they can't not do it. Is if you have one book in you to create and you have one version of the book that you know to create today, guarantee yourself that you have more than one.
Right.
You're going to have another story to tell, or you're going to have another version to make available. And they're like, oh, I think you're right. Like, just do it. It's worth
Yes. It's
it.
worth it. It's worth it. Because then it's like, oh, you done spent that money on that one where you could have got a better deal for the 10. So, or more, 100. They got a whole nother, yeah, I
um,
just baby steps.
I was almost ambitious beyond what I should have been when I saw the 100, because I was like, do I need 100? Maybe. Well, let's just buy these in tens and
Right.
so now, something I think bears additional revisiting is that you've got a variety of translations, which in the product's brain that goes on in here and in your head as well, because we're product
Mhm.
oriented from different sides of the organizations. We have a lot of products. That means you have a lot of SKUs. That means you have
Yes.
a lot of things that you have to track. So
Yes.
you essentially have a portfolio. You don't just have one book, you have a
Hmm.
portfolio of books. And from the experience that you've had up till now, what has having a portfolio done for you, Tiffany?
I mean, it just gives you the opportunity to say, okay, you can do combos, you can mix this and that, and it's just the opportunity. For example, when I came out with the book, but then I said, here's a coloring book. You can put that together. Here's the translation. If you want to learn both of them, put the English and the translated one. So it's just the sky's the limit, because it allows them to be able to put different combinations of things, be able to put it together. And then when I came out with the teacher's edition,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it has the math, the science, the English language, and social studies in it. So teachers can tie it in, as well as homeschool, to tie in, get the book, get the teacher's edition, get a coloring book, get a translated version. Like, it's just awesome to be able to say, okay, you can do all these and you can learn, and you're learning in the process in all different ways. So it changes the mindset of a child. Now they can see it in so different ways. It opens up their mind, different perspective. They say, okay, I can learn a new language. Let me put this English right here, put this translated one. Wow, this is what this word means. So they're learning in the process. And so it's just amazing that I You think as you said that, it makes me think, wow, you embrace it.
Absolutely.
Embrace it.
Now, I'll tell you, just from what you just said, I understand how the demand has been created for the book that you had translated into Swahili, and the Spanish, again, a no brainer, but the French. I don't know if you realize this, but a lot of toys are being created that have sounds for children at the
Hmm.
earliest stages that have
Hmm.
translations in Spanish and French.
Hmm.
And the one that kind of took me outside of just my own creative thought process was one that my son introduced to me. He watches videos from time to time, and one that really gravitated toward his interest was sign language. And so he
Hmm.
learned the sign language alphabet. And when it's a funny thing we do when we're in the bathtub and he's in the bath, he's got all his bubbles. We draw alphabet letters, and
Nice.
he at the same time we're drawing alphabet letters with his right hand, he'll make sign language alphabet letters with his left.
Wow.
And so that was what prompted me to have the book translated not only into Spanish, but also into American Sign Language. And there is, to me, just a
Interesting.
seamless coming together. Like, why wouldn't I at that point? But I didn't think of all the different ways, like with the teacher's edition, how
Hmm.
learning can extend. Talk more about how you decided to come up with that teacher's edition. And I know
Right.
teachers save a lot of time with lesson planning, but what have they
Right.
given feedback about?
So once again, like I'm gonna go to, I stayed in my lane. I am not a teacher. So I actually got a curricular writer,
Mm-hmm.
and she helped. She's got so many years as a teacher, a principal, and so I worked with her and Michelle Pearson, and she's a curricular writer. And so from there, she took the book and she's got it broken down to worksheets at the end, which range from word problems, and she tied in the different STEM careers. So she has them broken down into the different subjects. And this is amazing how you can do different activities with cube blocks. They take the cubes and they do the different calculations based off of how many certain careers do they do. And it's just amazing how she pulled it from the math. And then she did social studies. I mean, you pull from geologists and you can pull rocks. And so she's talking about the Plato rocks and stuff. It's amazing how the curriculum was broken down just based off of the careers. And she broke it down even from, like I said, the word problems to story, how you do a storybook and how you can do that from an English language arts perspective. And so I'm just amazed. It's a curriculum. I mean, it's based off a curriculum, and it's the sky's the limit with it. And the teachers can do whatever works for their classroom based off of what their needs are as well. And so it has worksheets at the end where they use it, and it's amazing. So it's got all the different things tied to the book itself, and it goes together. So.
Now, where did you find the person that you worked with to develop
So
this?
I held on to this when you're talking about something. I held on to this for a whole year. I was ready, yeah, back in May, March maybe. And that's when COVID happened.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, these teachers don't want this. COVID's happening. Oh no, we're going virtual.
I
So I
know.
had this ever since last year. So you want
Uh-huh.
to talk about holding on to something? Yeah, this has been done since last. All I needed to do was press the button to publish. So it was sitting there ready. So when I found her, it's kind of I think it might have been in a Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but it's I think it was Facebook group because I'm in a lot of authors Facebook groups, and I think she had mentioned how if you're looking for a teacher's edition for a curriculum writer, I'm one, and I think I might have found it in an authors group in a Facebook group, and so I just reached out to her and then asked her price for it. I felt it was reasonable for the work that she can do and make it into a curriculum. It was amazing, and so that yeah, I sat on it for a year because I was like, yeah, we need a teacher's edition, and I worked with her, and she had it already ready. I just was waiting for the time to press the button. And so COVID's gradually ending, but I said I need to just go ahead and push this out here because I've been waiting too long. So yeah, so that's how I found her and how I waited for a whole year to get this out because
Wow.
life happened with the schools.
I understand. I'm going to share a way that is I am in the same groups that you're in, and if that's one way I probably would have found someone too. But then I'm gonna tell you another way that I found a curriculum writer.
Okay.
I found two of them actually.
Okay.
You know how you connected to friends and family on Facebook and
Hmm.
they make announcements about what's going on in their lives? Well, a couple of girls that I've known since they were really small children have recently graduated from college. And we
Okay.
grew up in the church together. So I'm more the age of their moms, or my mom is more the age of their moms.
Hmm.
And with these girls graduating in elementary education, I immediately
Oh.
looked for an opportunity to give them some practical experience.
Okay.
One of the two graduated about, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, and I told her in an Instagram DM, just like, when you have time, reach out to
Hmm.
me. I have an opportunity for you before you start school. With give her some money as a thank
Hmm.
you, of course. And then the other one was just like, I'm looking for ways to use what I learned. What you got for me? I'm like,
Okay.
I got plenty.
Right. Right.
I know other people who need these young ladies' talents as well. So, I mean, they're in the Facebook groups. If somebody's looking,
Hmm.
look within your existing friends and family network.
Right.
There are people who we are connected to already, you know?
Hmm.
So that's important to be able to also, when we're putting that stuff out here in the content that we release, we're always telling people what we have going on and that we have a book available for sale. But
Right.
other thing we can do is ask for the kind of support that we need. And it's not always to ask somebody to buy your book.
True. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then another, I meant to tell about audiobook. I do have it as an audiobook too. So that was another whole learning process too, but I forgot to put that out there. But getting it in audiobook, like I'm all about, I want all different options. I'm not leaving anything on the table. And so I have it now. It's short. It's a short book, but I'm like, okay, let me try this audiobook. So I got a narrator for that too. And so I wanted my own voice, but I said no, this go round because But I got somebody to do that as well. So yeah, I have it all different ways. I said, okay, I'm gonna try this way too. So.
Sweet. I interviewed a couple of weeks ago. Well, I guess it was a couple of months ago now. Somebody who produces audiobooks. He walked through that entire process. But it sounds like you might have worked with some freelancers to get your audio
Mhm.
produced. Is that correct?
I mean, all I needed was a narrator, and then I uploaded it to the ACX.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
That's it.
And then on there, you just put your chapter, you put your introduction and your chapter. I don't have many chapters because it's a small book. And then once it uploaded, that was it. I just needed a narrator for mine, and then it uploaded to Amazon Auto, iTunes. Like it ended up going to all those different spaces. So yeah, it was just like that for me.
I love that you're sharing this part of the journey and translating it into an audiobook, because the interview that I did a couple weeks ago with the Full Out production team might be one way to do it, but you've introduced an alternative where if somebody
Hmm.
decided they wanted to do it themselves, they really can.
Yep.
Thanks for
And
sharing
that's
that.
the way I did it. I mean, that's just like getting traditional publisher versus getting a self publisher.
Mhm.
Like, but still making sure it's professional at the end of the day. Is you don't want anything to look homemade either. So that's why I went on and paid for it. You make the investment as well. So, and that's what I do with a lot of the stuff I learned. Yes. So.
Gotcha. I'm so thrilled that, I mean, you could share as much about your journey in the translations and in how to leverage marketing when you have a full time job and have a whole
Hmm.
lot of time to make it work. Tiffany, where can people get more information about what you have
Hmm.
going on and
Okay.
buy your books?
Okay. Well, you can definitely check out my website, tiffanyteachey.com, and you can get autographed signed copies of the book. It is available on Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, Walmart, and Target, online as well. And so the sky's the limit. I am available on Instagram and Twitter, Tiffany Teachey, at Tiffany Teachey, as well as you can go on Facebook, author Tiffany Teachey, or Tiffany Teachey author, and you can find me that way. So website tiffanyteachey.com, and it's available.
Oh, you are a teacher, believe it or not. You're teaching kids where they can place their interests, and that there's somebody who has been where they are and is an example for them to aim for the stars. So thank you for sharing everything with us today. Thank you for making time. I know you just celebrated your birthday. Happy belated.
Yay! Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm excited that I took part in it.